Alright, this is Ralph Raven here, aka Nefarious Yordle, and I just wanted to show you guys a Warwick Korean Challenger replay in this one. I thought it was really interesting. Obviously, one thing, before we even start the video, I want to make a point. If you look for videos on YouTube with the category Warwick Challenger or whatever it is, right, you are going to find the pop-off videos that people want to watch. Because people don't want to watch a boring farm game, even though that might be exactly what you need to see from a challenger level player in order to improve your gameplay and make better decisions. So just keep that in mind if you're going to search for these games. There is a bias. I don't think you can really circumvent that. The only way you can circumvent that is if you go to op.gg and pick a random challenger player off the ladder and analyze their random game. That's the only way you can do it without bias. So with that being said, let's jump into the replay, right? So just a quick little pre-game analysis. This was patch 7.12, so the actual patch-related statistics are not really that relevant. But what is relevant is just some general remarks about composition, right? So if we look at Jarvan, Gragas, Victor, that tells me that's a lot of like Gragas Victor, a lot of AoE damage, a lot of CC with the Jarvan in there. So they have quite a team-oriented, team-fighting-oriented composition, right? Like, not really Jarvan, not really known for the poke. If you look at the enemy team, they have the same thing. So really, it's just like both of these teams are just gonna probably just clash together at moments, and that's it, right? There's not gonna be a whole lot of pussyfooting in this game. So if you look at this, Warwick actually started at Gragas' blue buff. Now, Gragas tried to counter a red buff to blue buff invade, but Warwick actually countered that by going to the blue buff first and then to his red buff. So that's just a quick little thing where essentially you can't really predict this 100%, right? If in your elo, if your elo is below Diamond 5, or maybe even Diamond 5 and 4, right? Like, invades are very rare, and then as you get higher and higher, it becomes much more common. It's like you can go anywhere in the jungle, pretty much, right? Like, just if you have the pressure to do it, you'll do it, and it's just it happens so much in Challenger, right? But this is something you need to keep in mind, where essentially you can't do better than randomize it, right? Like, either you do the red buff and then the blue buff, or you do it the other way around. The only way you can really prevent this is if you actually spot people with wards. You put up a ward at, into the blue buff, right? And then you just look like, where are they? Now, I'm presuming, we didn't see the start of this game, but I presume this didn't happen because of the lack of coordination in solo queue. If some people just start going to random positions instead of actually looking for that ward, then this can happen, right? You can't really prevent it. So that's just something to keep in mind. Obviously, with obvious invade junglers like Ivern, this happens all the time. You do it every game, right? And that's just how things are. So if you spot someone out and you know they're gonna invade, you can actually go ahead and take the blue buff on the other side of the map. So you're just avoiding each other essentially that way, right? Which if the enemy jungler is an early game invader, that's a good thing, right? Like, so if you can avoid someone who's strong early game, essentially you're winning, right? That's the kind of leads you're looking for in Challenger, right? Like, you're not going to outplay someone in Challenger very often if they already have a lead over you, just by the nature of their champion. Alright. Well, that's a pleasant noise, isn't it? Let's see if I can talk over that. Yeah, alright, well, it's gone now. So, not recording under optimal conditions here. But, yeah. So, sometimes what you do in the replays, if you want to learn how to play, you want to look at the minimap. You can't see all the information, but you can see most of it based on the movements on the minimap and the health bars that you can see, right? So what you want to do is really just take a look, pause the video at moments where he has to decide what to do, right? Like after his red buff, he has to go somewhere. And just ask yourself, where does he go now, right? And what you can see is Gragas just finished doing his wolves, which Warwick probably predicts and knows. And what do you do after the wolves, right? Like, well, you can do a couple of things. You can back or look for the Warwick. So he's going to look try and spot out the Warwick. If the Warwick actually walks to his blue buff, then he'll just do the Scuttler and either gank or back. That's Gragas' decision making here, right? So in the meanwhile, Warwick's decision making is, well, either the Gragas is going towards the Scuttler to look for Warwick, or he's going towards the bottom. So either way, it's a bit of a gamble, essentially, right? You don't know that the Gragas will be there. But indeed, Gragas goes out and looks for the Warwick. Very normal decision making, right? You know he's still topside at this point, if at all he's going to gank in the first 4 minutes of the game. So if you don't spot him here, he pretty much loses all pressure because he has to clear those camps in the bot side first. There's no sense in just walking through the entire jungle and not clearing any camps. It's too cost inefficient, especially in challenges. These things matter a whole lot. But actually, let me scrap that. That matters in any elo. It's just that in lower elo, you have bigger margins to make up for those losses, right? But there's still big mistakes. So they actually meet here, and now Gragas, because Gragas is level 2, he's pretty much screwed here. He can try and walk to this area and flash over here, but as we can see, that's not what he... You can see Faker probably has his camera elsewhere because he actually takes a second before he notices this. And if you don't know if it's going to happen, you can be Faker, but you will take a second to react. So what happens here is he gets fleed, and as you can see, he was still only here, so he can't flash over this. Right, so Faker's dead. There's nothing he can do about that. Really, the only thing he can do, I guess he did predict that Warwick would go to his bottom side camps, and he just wanted to clear the Scuttler and gank. And that would have been clear, like, that would have been a very sensible thing, probably would have happened most of the time. But, you know, this is an active Warwick. He's already looking for the invade and looking for the active plays. I don't know if you can blame Faker for this. I would say no, probably not. It's pretty rare to actually skip your blue buff just to look for the Gragas. Like, I'd say no, Faker couldn't have done anything here. He has the level 2. Faker probably should have been more careful because he has the level 2. If you pick Q and W just for the camps, right, then obviously you're going to, if you run into someone, you're dead because you don't have re. Right, so maybe that's why he should have been more on edge. But these are really small optimizations. This is not like why, say, a Platinum player would climb the Diamond because of mistakes like this. This is when you're in Challenger and you're looking to slightly optimize your statistics, then this is what you're looking for. But this is not really the kind of criticism I want to make or analysis I want to do, just as general tips for improving, because this is really high-level stuff. Like, even if it doesn't look that way, because Gragas died, there's very little he could have done. Alright, let's continue. He just pokes this guy. That poke is significant, right, after that teleport comes in. So, essentially what he does here is give Castin a better lane. Because they already spotted him, that means he's not really losing pressure. He's on his way to the blue buff anyway, right? So in a sense, it doesn't really matter what he does right now. Like, if he just comes in and pokes, that's worth. But you have to realize, don't do this when actually nobody knows where you are. Because then you just remove all pressure from a map unnecessarily. Very important. Sometimes when you look at Challenger players do something, but you don't have a concept behind it that you're missing, you could make the wrong analysis of it. So it's very important to keep that in mind. Right, so let's just keep going. Right, this, I think it's a little bit awkward. I don't really know what his reasoning is to instantly do his blue buff. I mean, he just got double buffs from Gragas. Essentially, you could just let this sit there until you're back, and then take these camps, right? So, let's see if I can see from here how much money Warwick has. I can't really see that, but I would really say just farm the camps until you get the 1050 gold, and then just back. I don't think taking the blue right now is doing a whole lot for you. Actually, the blue is 3/4 gone. Maybe it doesn't refresh when you get them. I thought they actually refreshed. Oh, Gragas didn't have his blue buff. So the blue buff has almost ran out. So that's my bad. So this is still an important point, though. If he had a new blue buff, he would have made this decision differently. But he did this because it was almost running out. So then it's just a quicker way to get the camp, right? So even though I'm wrong about this, sometimes you can learn from the mistakes in your analysis, right? So it's very important. Okay, well, we can't look at the bot lane, we can't really see exactly what's happening here, but with the Blitzcrank you obviously always have gank potential, because Blitzcrank, he already uses Flash, which is unlucky, but essentially Flash E means guaranteed CC. Flash E means that you always get a kill, right? So that's really just one of Blitzcrank's major strengths, right? You have to stay at a very large range not to be hit by that. If he just presses W, walks up to you, Flash E's you, right? It's very hard to do anything. Maybe if you're Azrael you can avoid that, but with most AD carries it's going to be very hard. Like Caitlyn doesn't have an instant escape, it has to charge up, and during that time you're already knocked up. So that's just what's going to happen there. So it's a good lane to gank, right? If you look at Kassadin, it's a pretty garbage lane to gank, but we'll be seeing that actually this game, obviously because you're always close to mid lane and Warwick gets a movement speed boost, he will be able to run there very quickly. So one important aspect of Warwick specifically, the champion specifically, is that you can always start running somewhere when the fight starts, because it's very quick. It doesn't cost you as much. Of course, you have always use rational judgment, right? Best judgment, but it's different from walking there as in the Mumu, where it's a huge investment of time, right? Like you just have to walk and walk and walk and walk. There's nothing you can do to speed it up. So that's just the difference between Warwick and almost any other jungler in the game. It's slower. It's quicker with Warwick, right? So he's just looking for stuff here, and probably just gets the 1050 gold as fast as he can, because once he gets that Tiamat earlier than that Gragas gets his items, he's going to really be ahead, like really be much stronger in 1v1 situations and be able to pressure him out of the jungle perhaps. So this is a good point where you want to ask yourself, what would you do? Because you can do two things, right? You can help the enemy bot lane, help your bot lane. You can look for Gragas, you can do your camps, or you can back. I mean, backing is just instant no-no, right? Like there's camps up, you could get the Tiamat for the 1050 gold, right? So you do your camps if you want that. Now the option to help the bot lane, Blitzcrank, it's hard to see because we can't actually spectate this, but Blitzcrank appears to be in the brush. So what I'm guessing is that he went out of vision so that they can't notice him loop around or get in their face, right? So he doesn't want to signal that he's gonna receive a gank, right? So if we look at this, it's very well played by Blitzcrank. Apparently Caitlyn probably backs off anyway and the Warwick calls it a day, but now the Blitzcrank has helped him out here. They can actually look for a gank mid lane as well. So it's very important to look at this setup, right? Like, so we're here. Now look at this. Caitlyn's here. And we see Blitzcrank going out of vision, and we see Caitlyn backing off, right? And what happens with the Warwick is that Blitzcrank is now walking towards mid lane. He didn't communicate this, by the way, so in my opinion, he could have done a better job in that regard. But he's just going to use the Blitzcrank to his advantage. So essentially, they find the Bard here because the Bard was missing, and they knew that the Bard was looking for some of the the things that he collects, right? The chimes, yeah. So essentially, very very clever play here. They were actually looking for a gank on mid lane, but they find the Bard instead and decide to turn around and turn on him. So even though a lot of things are happening here, essentially they just get the kill. They were looking for Victor but found Bard instead. They could have also been looking for the Bard if they were clever, but they didn't, right? So essentially what they should, in my mind, have done is they should have bomb planted over. If the Caitlyn backed off, they should have walked towards mid lane, and Warwick should have pinged the Blitzcrank for help, because you're not going to get this kind of cooperative Blitzcrank every game, even in Challenger. It doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter. The pings are something you use in Challenger as well, right? Spam ping someone for help. That's very normal, even especially in Challenger, I would say, right? So, in my opinion, Warwick, if he wants to stand out as a green challenger jungler, he should play this much better. He should coordinate with his teammates and stand out, right? Time the summoners, spam ping your teammates, communicate with them, and really, holy shit, really just get better, right? Like, at doing those things consistently. Stand out. So, if we just gonna walk here, he's gonna probably, I don't know how much gold he has right now. I'm just going to assume that he still doesn't have enough gold for his Tiamat, or that he now has enough gold to get his boots. So there's some steps there. 1050, the 650 for your jungle item, 1050 for your Tiamat, 950 if you really can't get the extra 100 for boots and your jungle item, and then 1350 for Tiamat and boots. Right, and then after that it becomes ludicrous, right? Those are the basic steps, right, that you can take in terms of gold value. If you want to decide whether you want to back or take another camp, right? So that's just flexible. If you have that many camps up, it's just flexibility that you have, right? Just get the gold you want. So indeed, as you can see, he did get that camp for the boots and a pink ward. So now just ask yourself, where do you go, right? Do you go to the Krugs and then Raptors? Or Raptors and then Krugs, and why? Now I can tell you one thing that you base the decision on is the position of the lanes right now. Victor is backing, so essentially nothing is happening there. He just took the bot lane camp, so Drake and bot lane are kind of out of question right now. And if you want to move towards top lane, you could do a Krugs and walk in there with your pink ward. So in my opinion, he should probably have done that. But I'm watching this with foresight, and I know that he's not going to do that. So in my mind, this is a mistake. So in my mind, you should be going to the Krugs because Jarvan's pushing under Camille's turret. Greg is likely going to be in the area for that very reason. If someone's pushing someone else in, it's very likely to be like 2v2 or at least 2v1, right? There's going to be action, right? So I'm kind of disappointed that Warwick doesn't do that here. And goes for his Raptors instead. It's just I don't exactly know how many seconds that saves or loses. Maybe he wanted to avoid a ward, but there was no ward in that brush, right? So in my mind, if you avoid the tri-brush, that would be an argument for this, right? Avoid the tri-brush and avoid Gragas by pink warding the other brush. So there are arguments to be made. It's a very close decision. In general. The point I want to make here is that regardless of what conclusion you come to, you have to have a reasoning behind it. The better your reasoning, the better you will be at juggling. Because even though in this case it didn't matter that much, over time there will be times where it's absolutely crucial to have the right kind of reasoning, right? So to avoid that tri-brush is a very interesting decision to me. And essentially what he thinks is that he has a better chance of killing Gragas than he does of killing Jarvan. Jarvan has Flash and E, which means that if you still don't have ultimate, I guess the gank potential is very low. You'd have to see the Jarvan use his E. So what I would be doing right now is constantly look at the Jarvan and see if he uses his E, right? Because not only does it tell you it's on cooldown, right, but it also tells you that he's aggressively going onto the Camille, and he's not very likely to keep it up just in case, right? So instead Warwick goes for what in my mind is very clever here, considering that the Jarvan has E and Flash. He actually looks for Gragas in his jungle. This is an example where I would have been less proactive, more docile, right? And because the Victor actually Victor didn't teleport to lane. Victor just walked back to lane, and by this time he's actually arrived back in lane already. So he walks around here, a little bit ineffective routing. Here he walks back, and they don't actually get him. Which I think this positioning was very awkward. Like the way that he plays this is a little bit clunky, where he doesn't take the most efficient route, right? In my mind, if he wanted, then he could just visit Gragas at his buff. Gragas has no mana as level 4, so I can tell you one thing. He does not have Flash, has no mana, and is level 4. So in my mind, it's a huge misplay that he didn't actually track the jungle path and figure out that Gragas was doing wolves around that time. So that's just one of these things where I'm like, you're a challenger level Warwick and you're playing this very, very, very accurately, but there are still improvements to be made, and this is one of them. Right, both the communication in terms of pinging, right, the communication in terms of your stance, the communication is just generally lackluster, but of course you don't know what's being said in game, right? But I don't presume if someone doesn't ping that the chat's very good, because generally those two correlate. People that ping more also say more, right? They use timers in chat, all that. So really just a mistake. The biggest mistake he's made here is not really committing to anything here and just kind of going through this route without doing anything. Like he was looking for a gank in mid or top, but in my mind it would have been better to actually invade Gragason's jungle, right? So that's just how I approach that. Like, if you know what camps are up and which are down, then you can always track where the Gragas is and what his route is. It shouldn't be too hard if you're challenger, right? Because that's the things you get used to when you just keep jungling and keep getting a feel for where everyone is at which times, right? Of course, in this elo, someone like Jarvan has a pink ward in that brush, so he knew he can't gank top lane, right? You can see Jarvan having absolute control over that lane, which means that he's actually not as vulnerable to ganks. Longju is actually baiting, like their top laner is skilled enough, right, experienced enough to not just shove someone to gain control or back off at the appropriate time, but actually bait someone in and then rely on your ability to survive when they come, right? So what you do is you ward up, pink ward and the actual ward, and just try to actually spot out jungler and draw pressure towards you, right? So his biggest advantage is not a kill or CS, but actually trying to reduce the pressure of the top lane, right? Also, if you know that Warwick isn't top lane, you know he's mid or bot. So either way, if you have vision control, you're not just getting. It's not just like, oh well, then I can see the jungler and I'll live, right? No, it's much more than that. When the jungler comes, it also means your other two lanes are now being helped, because they know that they're not going to get ganked for the next 30 seconds. And even more than that, you also know, since you have vision control, your opponent doesn't, and that means that essentially your jungler could be anywhere, right? They don't know. They have to all play a little bit more passive, because the vision control creates map pressure and relieves that of the opponent, right? So it's much more than just, oh well, now I see someone coming, right? Like, it's much more than that. Especially in Challenger, where people do pay attention to these things when determining roams, when determining aggression, right? These people factor that into account, and it really helps if you do this appropriately and you have this vision control, right? Oh well, the Warwick isn't top lane. All right, well then we know where he is, right? Helps your other lanes. So let that be a lesson. If you're like, well, if I have pressure in my lane but I can't kill someone, how do you essentially help your team out and gain a lead and push your lead? Sometimes it's as simple as putting up a ward, right? And that's what this Jarvan shows in this game, right? So boo Warwick for not really committing to anything. He's not really clearing that pink ward, he's not really invading the jungle, he's not really doing the mid gank appropriately. He's just kind of dabbling about. If you just committed to either one of these activities, you would get something out of it. So don't be afraid to criticize challengers, right? They still are humans and they do make mistakes. It's on a different magnitude and a different frequency, but they're still mistakes and they're still often good to be analyzed. Very strange here. I couldn't see Jarvan on top of Camille because of the minimap, right? Because if they're right on top, you can't even see him. But right after Crux, the Jarvan went in. This is a really cool play, right? That's pretty cool. So what happened here is you can see the flagpole, right? Let's just look at that in the replay. This is just a little mechanic, right? He can see the flagpole combo coming down, and Warwick actually cues him. Now, if Jarvan wanted to really play this as well as he could, he would try to hug this top wall here. He wouldn't walk this far up, he would just walk away from Warwick. So if you look at their position at any point in time, so Jarvan gets a kill here and backs off. So at this point, he can walk in a straight line backwards to maximize the distance between him and Warwick. You just draw lines straight through them and then just continue on that line upwards, right? That's how you stay away from the Warwick. Now you can obviously add a little curve towards your tower to that to reduce the amount of distance to your tower. So that's positioning idea behind that. But he goes really steep to the left, which the only reason you would do that is to try and hit Warwick with the knock-up. But your only way you're going to die here to a level 5 Warwick is if he Qs your E. So what you really want to do here is just try and bait out the Q. Right? Here we see it. He should not have done this. Like, this is where he fucked up. He should have placed the E and just waited for a second. Like, you have to imagine, right? You are a professional League player. You're in a team, you're in a professional team that's doing well, right? If you want to be the best, right? If you want to be the best, then you have to be able to outplay people in these situations. You have to read the geometry of the positioning, right? And you have to read your opponent, right? And know that they're going, what mechanics do you have? The interaction between Warwick and Jarvan here is very obvious, right? There's only one interaction to really keep in mind. So he should have done that. And the fact that he doesn't is disappointing. Because it's not like there's 100 things here to figure out. It's just this one thing that he should have done, right? So, sure, it's a high-level mechanic, but it's just the only thing you could have done here to try and create an outplay, right? Otherwise, you're for sure dead. So there's no risk to it. There's just a reward, right? Because if he sticks to your EQ, then you're dead anyway, right? So you might as well, even if you die before you even land the Q because you're trying to bait him out, doesn't matter, right? So, yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. It's like, yeah. If we look at this, I think there's just going to be a bit of farming now. Like, the Warwick obviously doesn't want to take his red buff yet, or take these camps. If he walks back, he has a good buy now. Taking these camps is something he could do if he needed the extra money. Let's look at what his buy is, right? This is very interesting. This is a bit specific on Warwick. If you have a large lead, you can choose to go for Sheen into Triforce. You shouldn't do that if you're not ahead. It's just something, if you're 3-0 in Challenger, then sure, right? Like, this Warwick knows what he's doing. Even though I disagree with him sometimes. He still knows what he's doing, right? So, now he's just like, if you look at the fact that he's running, it means that health bars are low. There's a lot of shit going down in his mid lane and in the bot lane. So what they're trying to do is, you know, really when that pressure is going down, you can expect Gragas to show up. So he just walks towards Gragas, spots him out, right, and nothing really happens. And in my mind, his idea is right, but the execution is so awkward, right? So here the Caitlyn's dead, a Victor falls low, and what he does here, he just walks to his brush, and doesn't do anything. He just scouts out the Gragas, right? In my mind, it's not really necessary right now. Like, alright, so Bard is full health, and Gragas is full health, but Victor and Caitlyn were dead. So in my mind, if you coordinated this well, you could take this Drake. There is no way that they can stop a full health Warwick and an over half health Kassadin, right? You just have too much CC, right? Even though you have a health disadvantage. In my mind, if you have a Blitzcrank, Q and E and Alt and a Kassadin Silence and a Warwick Taunt, there's too many abilities, too much change to see, right? Like, so if you do this, I think you'd get it every single time. I don't see how Gragas can stop you. It's not a Smite War. Yeah, I guess it is a Smite War if the Gragas comes in. But then at least it's 50-50 on the Drake. But more importantly, it's not 50-50 in the sense that you have a pink ward, you have two pink wards, so Gragas has to time it, so it's not really 50-50, it's more like 70-30, right? And moreover, Gragas will probably die, right? Like Gragas can be blocked from a Z with the Warwick Q taunt, right? So really it's 70-30 and Gragas would die. So in my mind, you should coordinate Drake, you should start spam pinging, at least suggest it, and if they don't want to, then sure, right? So, yeah, I don't know, it's like, maybe I'm missing something here. I'll admit to that, I'm not perfect. Maybe it's just me not seeing something that omission is always a danger, right? Like, nobody's going to tell you that you're missing something when you're just analyzing things on your own. But this is, in my mind, something that you should try, like, especially with those pink wards that you have. You already have one down and you have two. You had two in the inventory. It shouldn't be too much of a problem in my mind. But that's just how it is. So let's just see what he does next. I think it's a little bit awkward to use that on the Gromp instead of the blue buff, for example. He wants to donate the blue buff to Kassadin. Since he's 1-0-1 and without any, just 1-0-1 clean, I think it's okay to give it to Kassadin. Actually, it's very good to give it to Kassadin. I would say that a little bit stronger. So here the Jarvan actually became low. I can't obviously look at the situation itself, but he's just kind of walking there. And I've seen a lot of instances where what happens is he'll just start running, right? Now, if he was a little bit more accurate on actually reading if the fight extends, he could save a little bit of time. That could be the difference between a few camps, right? Because Gragas is actually out farming him at this point. He could be he could have done one or two camps if he didn't waste all that time earlier. So, not flawless gameplay on his part. Like, if I wanted this guy to play competitively, right, in the top ranks, those little things, right, whether in the long run you start maximizing your gold value is very important, right? So that's just things he should be working on in my mind, right? Like he could definitely use some coaching to tip him from solo queue god to competitive god, right? Like just filling in those little gaps, right? That's really what it is. It's not comparable to, say, if you're coaching a gold level player who just makes macroscopic mistakes that just kill you, that just like dying is like 100 times worse than missing a camp, right? But it's just once you get at a certain level, the magnitude of mistakes obviously reduces, right? It reduces. It always goes down throughout the elo. It's very simple. Alright, this is just a cool mechanical, well played, right? So if you look at this, I find it interesting. Warwick's ult is like a cleaver, right? Like, look at this. It has a very thick hitbox. I remember someone telling me that you could dodge a Warwick ult if it's thrown at a cleaver's distance, because it's just like a Mundo Q. It's like, as you can see, that's clearly not the case, right? If you are in the center of the hitbox, you can see he moved from right to the center here to just about here. Like my cursor isn't accurate enough for this, but he moved like 2 letters of the suppressed, right? If he hit him just on the edge, right? If the center of Warwick was on the edge of Victor's hitbox, he'd still hit him, right? He'd still hit him. So it's not dodgeable. You just have to flash it. So with that in mind, I feel like Victor should have probably flashed before this, because they're just giving Warwick this fancy outplay, right? Just suppress Q, right? Look at this. Look at how awkward this looks, by the way. So here he's already pressed Q, so he literally Q'd through the target. What an idiot. That's all I can say. Like, you're giving Warwick the outplay on a silver platter. It's like, no, you can't flash after the suppress. As a challenger level Victor, you should know those things. Those are the kind of mistakes that just make me wonder, like, what the hell are you doing in this elo? Right. So they pick up a kill. overall, just the awareness is the biggest thing I noticed with challenger junglers, right? Aside from just being mechanically competent, really the mechanics with something like Warwick isn't that big of a deal, right? Sure, there's some mechanics, some little things that you might not notice that he's doing that really affect his gameplay, but on the larger scale of things, it's like the biggest differences come from the fact that he invades at such appropriate times, right? And that he's constantly looking for vision control, looking to scout out the Gragas. He's looking for helping out his teammates, right? With his passive, he's just gonna run, run, and run, right? That proactive attitude of his is the biggest reason why he's challenger level Warwick. He's constantly generating takedowns at a much higher rate than I would, right? I would probably miss some of these scenarios and just pick a camp and then be like, oh shit, I should have gone there. Oh, my bad, I should have looked at that. And he's got that down. He's got it down. He's constantly looking, constantly doing the best he can. Now he could know that the red buff's up here by the way. I don't really know why he walks back into his own jungle. And I also don't know why he takes this plan, because he has a blue buff, and you'll regenerate to half health anyway when you do the dragon, so that's just wasted time. You just wasted 3 seconds here, right? So just don't do that. Just little things, you know. It's not gonna lose you the game, but come on, you can do better than that. Also, I just don't think it's worth. When you're looking at this, he would be at a higher health if he saved his E and used his Q to get back to half health, right? So really, just poor management by the Warwick. Save the smite. It's not worth the 3 seconds you just wasted on the plant. He could have made up those 3 seconds by not taking the plant and then smite when he needs the extra health, right? And not preemptively, because that puts you at more health, and Warwick heals more when he is on less health, HP, right? So really, just don't take the plant, dude. You have the mana. You regenerate the health. Take the smite when you absolutely need it, and heal to half health with your passive, dude. Basic mechanics. Challenger, dude. What are you doing? You can really see where the big things are, right? Because things like this don't really matter as much. Because even if he did this appropriately, he would have still been at lethal range. It would have been very hard to smite the dragon and then still run away from the Bard, right? Because of the ranges on this. So he was almost certainly going to die, but if he saved his E and saved his smite and used his abilities appropriately, other than that, right? Like Q through the dragon, all of that good stuff, that would have gone a lot better. Yeah. That's just being stupid. You can be challenger, but you can also be stupid. Let's just keep going, right? Let's just keep going, keep seeing if we can point some things out. I still got some interesting things before this gets a stomp fiesta where you push things with the team and just take the nearest camp when you can, right? So he goes out and takes his blue buff here because Kassadin can take the red buff. Kassadin can take his buff on his own, right? So, Hide on Bush is trying to make sneaky outplay with the bomb plants. Again, if you're in Challenger and you know where the bomb plants are, you can make it. You can make it out alive, right? If you're doing the blue buff, it can be a little bit harder. You need an escape, right? With Warwick, not gonna happen, right? With your ultimate, yeah, you can do it. But without your ultimate, and if they loop in behind you, it's gonna be hard. But if you have a bomb plant, and if you have an escape, if you have vision, and you know nobody's coming, those conditions are when you can evade. So then the condition is not when 2 people are dead. If that's the condition you're waiting for, you're not jungling as well as you could, because really you don't get those margins in a certain elo, right? You're just gonna hit a barrier where it feels like you're always doing the same thing, the same route, the same decisions, right? You have to work with the small margins that you have. Right, if you think you can go for an evade, go for it. Just have some balls, right? And if you die, then you die. Like, the game's not about not dying, right? The game is about improving, being the best player that you can be, enjoying the game. Those are the things. Like, if you never invade and you never try, really, you're not playing the game to the fullest extent, right? Because it's fun to invade. It gets the adrenaline going, right? When you try invading in ranked, ooh, that's some pressure, right? These people do it like it's just, yeah, sure, you just do it, right? They do it all the time. And that's you know, imagine how fun that is and how much you learn from that because you're constantly playing on edge. So really, I encourage anyone, invade as much as you can within reasonable bounds, right? Really, just big effort. Ah, it's a cool play. He tried to outplay him really hard here. I think he still gets a kill, yeah. I shouldn't say that I think it, because if I look at that range and that taunt, and the fact that Camille's going to hit him as well and Keston's behind him, it's not an I think situation, it's an I know situation. But, yeah, just a funny situation, funny interaction with the bomb plant. Very well played by Warwick, because at least now he got knocked to do Projectile, even though it got cancelled. The ult got cancelled. So, because Gromp is this close, you can just pick it up. Right now, if he doesn't have his ultimate and he doesn't have his flash, so if this Victor comes out and chases after him, that's pretty risky. So he doesn't want to look for Gragas, which means that I don't really know why he took this route. I think he takes this route because he wants to know if Gragas took his wolves first or if he's going to start at his red buff, right? Just do something like, maybe he could have done something like Raptors into enemy blue, right? And if he goes over the right wall, he would be unspotted. So those are the kinds of things that he could do, and that they want to ward out here. So very interesting. That constant scouting, just even if you don't commit to an invade, just scouting someone out, knowing where they are, that's all what it's about in Challenger. That's why he's a Challenger player and I'm not. Because I would have probably just walked to my Raptors and not have any clue where the Gragas is right now. What's going to happen is you're going to lose your blue buff to that. Guaranteed. Alright. Interesting. If you know that Gragas has no camps in top lane, I don't know if it's worth the experience and gold. I think it's more efficient to just skip it. I might be wrong in this. Maybe times have changed. I remember a time where nobody took the Scuddler unless it gave you the vision. If it doesn't give you vision, it's not worth it. You can also look at it this way. Assuming Riot balances their shit well, it's not going to be worth taking something that also gives a crap ton of vision, right? Because then it's like, it's overpowered in a sense, right? So if you can't use a component of something you're getting, then you're not really getting the maximum efficiency out of it, right? So cool deep ward here. Deep wards, definitely something a lot of mid laners in this elo do, because that's half of what mid lane is about in this elo. Just getting the fundamentals down is like 4/5 of the entire game. But especially in something like mid lane, if you just track the jungler and know where he is and place these deep wards at raptor camps all the time, like, you can do so much more, right? You can time yourself so much better when to go in, when not to go in. Another thing I want to point out, if you're playing against a jungler that has trouble clearing and you're something like Talon that can hop over walls, you can actually kill someone with a ward like that. So very profitable to do that. And here he just knows, right? He knows that bot lane is low because he's constantly looking at that. He's doing a very good job in that regard. Very icky execution, but I'll let that slide because they get the kill. That's not how you should analyze things, but I'll just let it slide, you know. Alright, so Infernal Drake's still up. The guy is just not touching that. And I just don't understand. I can understand why you wouldn't want to waste the tempo on another type of Drake, but especially since you have a 4k gold lead, it means that you'll probably get most Drakes. If you have a big lead and you can get a Drake, you'll probably get the next one as well. If it's even and you have to invest time and money into it, actually you're putting yourself behind. So now the chance that the enemy gets the next one is very substantial. So then it's just a gamble. So when the Infernal Drake is up, or even any Drake, and you have this big a lead, just take it, dude. I really don't understand what he's doing. Right? He can be as proactive as he wants to and all that. Really all I can say is that even though Infernal is pretty big, it's not going to decide this game. He's still Challenger due to the fact that he's so proactive in his scouting, invading, his mechanics, his, helping laners, constantly looking at the lanes, right? That's why he's challenger, but he's still making some gruesome errors that I'm just like, what? Why? Alright, at this point, I'm pretty sure he's about to pop off, right? We're almost halfway through, and he's just going to roam with the Blitzcrank, get a kill somewhere, right? It's really not as interesting from here. This isn't interesting, by the way. Can you see this animation here, right? I just paused it just as it starts channeling, and now it's like all the way through, and now it shoots out, and it's like, where does it hit? Like right about here. And I can tell you something, Warwick cannot walk fast enough for this. So if you're a challenger god, you flash this, because Warwick has flash up. But boop, he's dead. He's dead. He didn't flash it. So that's just mechanics, right? And then Bragg is swapped in, kaboom. Yeah, that really just tickles my pickle when I see that. This is really fun stuff. This is like grab the popcorn, right? Like imagine playing in a game like this, and you're just like, while you're playing, you're just grabbing your popcorn and just like, what the hell's going on? Alright, well, I really don't know if I want to analyze the rest of this, because I know he's just popping off, and when someone pops off beyond like 8 kills, it's really just like, takedown. Another one, and another one. It's like, I think I've gone over most of his decisions and the way that he plays the game. He really just does not touch the fucking Drake. It's just like he doesn't want to touch it. He doesn't want to coordinate. He doesn't want to ping. I've already gone over that. So yeah, what can I say? Obviously, just little things that some junglers just don't understand. Like, if your mid laner's dead and his wave is about to get pushed in by victory, you have to clear it, right? Because 6 minions are worth more than a single camp. Which means that really, you're just getting a free camp there. Which has 2 effects, right? Because not just are you getting that, you're also still, your camps are up, right? Camps are still up, so essentially you're getting it almost for free. Like, the amount of time you have to invest in it is very low. So that's just something I see some people just not do at all, right? They just don't take it. Like, even if you just, the little things like raptors, if you sit in the back of the raptor camp, you can get this experience. So sometimes when I don't want to relieve pressure, and my mid laner isn't catching this wave, but I can't show up here and get it for whatever reason, maybe I'm low health, right, then I'm already playing games, but sure, I'm low health and I'm sitting there, I'll hug this wall and get the experience while I'm clearing the raptor camp. Just little things to think about, right? Just those little things to get those golden experience leads. That's what it all starts out with. If you're level 10 and everyone else is level 9 or 8, it's so much easier to get the kill, right? It's like, otherwise you're battling against the odds. If you're level 8, you can be a mechanical god, but you're not going to kill level 10s, you know, in normal scenarios like this. So, the rest of the game, I think I can almost... Yeah, this is pretty cool play, right? So look at this. He has smite. Look at what he does. So imagine you have to pan your camera here at the right location, ult him, and then smite him right as you hit him. I guess it didn't look as impressive. When you look at it in replay, it looks less impressive, right? But that's pretty cool. That's not the way I would do it. I would probably not use the smite there, because I know I can always get the Tiamat after the ult ends. Ult doesn't do as much damage. We've probably already killed him. But especially because you gain Tiamat, it's like, why use the smite? Smite's valuable. Save it. Save it for the Drake right now, right? He does have 2 of them. Still, just having 2 of them ready is better than having wasted 1 of them. Alright, he uses the smite very, very well. Just gotta commend him for the things he does right. Like, the smite has just always been on point in this game, except for maybe that once, but, you know, it's been on point all game long. It doesn't really make sense to just point out that he's not doing it right, because overall he's been doing it pretty well. So, just something to keep in mind. When you're playing Warwick, just smite at the start of your ultimate. Right, that's just like when you start the combo, that's the best time to do it in general. Unless you think you're gonna die and you want to reduce damage, right, then you want to wait until obviously you get lower, right? just maximize the duration you spend at low health in terms of your passive, right? So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. Alright, well, here he has 10 kills. I'm just going to pause the replay right here. Just another example of what I just talked about, where he goes out and catches the wave because his mid laner isn't there. And so many low elo junglers don't understand. There's a wave right there. Just get it, dude. They just I can tell you, any gold player here would have walked to this camp, because that's what junglers do. They take camps. It's like being over-programmed. It's like being indoctrinated. You have to take camps as a jungler, and they have to be your camps, not the enemy camps. You just do some sort of route, and then you back, and then you route again. You maybe look for a gank sometimes. Very boring game that way. Like, you can do so much more, right? You can do all sorts of things with vision control, and then scouting, and invading, and ganking, and just like, you know, so many tactics that you can use, and you really have to use all of them to be as effective as you can be, right? So, starting out with catching waves, dude, like, please, if I see that shit in my games, it's like, there's experience right there. Just do the math, dude. It's more gold than experience in your camp. What are you doing? It's closer, it's more gold, more experience. What more do you want, dude? Right? So, it's not like you're stealing it from your laner. There's just this feeling like I shouldn't be mid lane because that's not my role or something like that, right? It's called functional rigidity. You have to sort of function in the game which relates to clearing camps and doing all of that, and you can't imagine yourself doing something different. That's something mid-elo players, like mid in the terms of like the entire ladder, right, and percentile, like low gold players, they struggle with that. They're very rigid in their behaviors, right? They always do the same thing. They're very predictable in a sense, right? Because they always do the same kind of thing. They never say, hey, let's go for an invade and see if we can like exploit someone's weaknesses. If someone's not paying attention, it's putting people on the edge where if they make a mistake, slight mistake, you kill them, right? It's just something that you have to do, because even in Challenger, even against Faker, it works. It works putting people on edge. Faker, oops, Faker made a slight mistake. He responded slightly too late to the Warwick walking into the rush. Boom, he's dead. Why? Because Warwick pressured him. He put him to the edge. And even Faker screws up when he's put to the edge by Warwick, right? So keep that in mind. This is not just assuming that your enemies are bad. It's assuming they're human. They're not AI. They don't see you coming on a first frame. Nobody does. Not even Faker. Right? That's a good point. Like, against an AI, those decisions would have been dog shit. Like, first frame, boom, walks away. Nothing happens. Warwick has no way to get in range, right? So, that's most of what I wanted to talk about. I can't really imagine other talking points that are relevant for jungling, right? So, I could have talked a little bit more about jungling tracking, perhaps how he could have done it, and how he could have done it even better, right? But most of it has been pretty on point. Like, it's harder, of course, to do when you have vision of the opponent, because you already know where he is. So it's like, what does a Warwick think where he is? It's a little bit hard when you already have that information available, right? It's easier for me to think about that when I actually can't see where he is and I have to track his camps, right? Otherwise, it's just like, yeah, I guess the Warwick didn't see any of that, but he's probably right about his wolves, right? So I would recommend practicing that without actually seeing someone. Like in OB.GG replays, you can use the League client for that, right? So that's what I advise to use for that, because it's a different experience when you actually have the answer lying in front of you, right? So I like how he just keeps going, right? His blue buffs are up, his camps are up, but why? You have so much pressure, just completely bully the Gragas out of the game, right? Like, if Gragas is sort of put to this little quadrant of the map, right? Just these tier 1, tier 2 towers, right? Tier 1 mid and tier 2 top and bot, right? If this little quadrant is all he can do, all where he can move, then he has no map pressure, right? Warwick is dominating this guy. So that's why you don't. That's another thing low elo players do. They don't pressure as much, right? They just go do their own camps. Even when people are pushing the inhib turret, time and time again, I've spammed it. Like, go Go with us. Go invade if you want to. You should probably be with the team, but even if you're invading, you're doing fine. But please, for the love of God, don't take your own camps when we're pressuring inhibitor turrets. It's not worth it. It's not worth the 60 gold that you could get from someone else's jungle and deny them 60 gold and apply pressure. These things compound, right? So, yeah, just immaculate gameplay in some regards. Pretty big blunders in other regards. I really like that. That Challenger. Still humans. Faker. Still a human. They all make mistakes and they're all worth analyzing, right? So, I hope you guys found some of this analysis useful, that you can apply some of it in your own games, and even in your own analyses, right? So, that's it for this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one.